Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we peep into the marketing future and catch a glimpse of Oreo dipping its cookies into robotics, Lexus driving the red carpet at the Oscars, and Google converting us into a culture of cross-eyed nerds.
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, the official podcast of Monsters Unlimited, a creative agency with a business brain. I'm Shad Conley, and while I like the films of Scorsese and Spielberg, I prefer the work of more modern auteurs like Lexus and Mercedes-Benz.
And I'm Patrick Jebber, and I wear my Google Glass at night so I can.
Beautiful. If this is
Wasn't
your
that awesome?
first time checking out the podcast, each episode we explore a different marketing topic and review the latest efforts from brands and businesses in that arena. The topic of today's show, New Directions. No, that's not the name of a boy band. What we're going to be talking about is we're going to look at a trio of brands working on some sort of outside-the-box projects, so trying some different things. This is a pretty loose category with the efforts we'll be reviewing ranging from minor marketing shifts to game-changing new products. As always, we'll provide our Speaking Human ratings for each of them. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first story we're going to be talking about today is Oreo takes aim at YouTube. So let me give you the lowdown here. After cycling through and conquering the various social media networks, Oreo is now making a strategic effort to ramp up its YouTube engagement and subscriber base. So basically, Oreo is pretty well known as a company that does social media really well. And now they've sort of set their sights on YouTube and produced a couple of videos, and they're making a concentrated effort to say let's build up our subscribers on YouTube. So Patrick, did you have a chance to take a look at Oreo's efforts on YouTube, some of the videos they put out there?
Yeah, I did. I saw quite a few of them, actually. One in particular that stands out is the gentleman who makes a machine to get the cream out of the center because he just does not like cream in the middle of his Oreo cookies. I think this is a really good attempt for Oreo to conquer another social media channel. They have a huge following. We talked about they have a great Facebook presence, 32 million plus fans on their Facebook
Crazy.
page. I mean, when you get to millions and you don't even count individual fans anymore. You just have 32M on your Facebook page. That's success, I would say. They've always had a great marketing team. When they put together these advertising campaigns, whether they're static or their commercials, they just do a really good job of building upon the Oreo brand. The cream versus cookie or whatever it is. They just do a really good job of making you love it and get back to almost like when you were a kid. How much you loved Oreo cookies because they're part of that. They're part of your history. You know what I mean? As an adult. So they're doing a great job there in terms of the social channel.
Yeah, and the thing I think I really respect about them that is really different than what a lot of other companies and sort of brands are doing in the social space is they've sort of cycled through these things and tackled them, one on one. So, first it's like, all right, let's do Facebook, let's build up our base, let's do it really well, let's concentrate our efforts there. After they've experienced some success, they're like, all right, let's move on to Twitter. And then they did the same thing with Instagram. And they keep these things going, but they're focusing on them sort of one at a time, like building them up, move on, build it up, move on. Whereas most brands are sort of like, all right, let's do them all at once, and they don't necessarily do any of them particularly well. They're just kind of like, here's our campaign, let's spread this out across these. I think that's kind of a really unique approach and probably a reason for a lot of their success. And I think you look at what they're doing on, even YouTube now, and it's done so well. Oreo, the way I think of them, they're like the straight A student. They just kind of always do things right. They put together these videos, and you've seen so many viral videos and the same kind of things too. But theirs still make you laugh. They're still just put together really well, really cleverly. And I just like their approach to the whole social, to all social media and the way they're using the online space in that sort of unique and different kind of way.
And I think they also do something in addition to, like you said, they conquer one, they move on. Well, and in moving on, they don't let the others suffer, the ones that they have conquered. They've perfected it, and they keep going.
Yeah,
Need to
they're
move
not like
on.
abandoning them; they're more like building on top of that. So, what's your final your rating on this? Going back, everybody knows our. It's been a while. We missed a week of the show, so in case you forgot, our rating system is superhuman, human, or subhuman.
By far and away, this is a superhuman for me.
And I have to agree with you. It's hard. It's hard to argue the other side of it. It's superhuman all the way for me. Kudos to Oreo, but not kudos to the candy bar. Moving on to our next story, Lexus moves into the movies. So this is a pretty interesting recent approach that Lexus, the car maker, has taken. They've teamed up with the Weinstein Company, which is a film company, to produce a series of short films that they hope will help the company speak to different cultures and add some emotion to the brand's traditional appeal. And basically what they've done is they've said, here's sort of the idea with our brand, here's sort of the feeling we want, incorporate it into these short films, produce the films in these way with these kind of up and coming filmmakers is the whole idea behind it. So what do you think of this, Patrick? It's sort of an innovative and interesting idea, a different approach to marketing than you would normally see.
Yeah, I mean, Lexus is a high-end car, I mean, and I think that the way that they've produced the films is very elegant, very resourceful in terms of the way that they've sort of, taken these up and coming or, these aspiring directors and really giving them the tools necessary to create these very beautiful short films. That being said, I really like it. I will say that it's an interesting approach. It's sort of boring to me. So that's the other side. Like I don't know if it will really catch on. I feel like that it has in an age of you've got to be quick for the normal consumer or the normal customer. If that's even really its intention, which I don't think it is, but it is a nice. It's almost like philanthropy in a way to me, and from that aspect, I like it.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. And I kind of have a similar view on this, except this is more along the lines of this is kind of my philosophy, my vision for the future is sort of the merger of marketing, entertainment, news, all kinds of content across the board. I think you're going to see more of these brands as producing this kind of stuff in these different sort of ways more in the future. At least that's the way I envision things. I think about it as in the past, you're a company, you wanted to reach people, you had to advertise on TV because that's where people were. Now with the internet, and the way you can reach people all the time on your own terms, on their own terms, any way you want, who's to say that, the company can't be the one that produces the TV show to bring people to them to watch it? And I
Right.
think that's sort of the new model where these lines are kind of blurring. So in that way, I think this effort's a great thing along these lines. I can envision a future where we're seeing movies funded by companies, and maybe they just feature their products, but they're still quality entertainment. Not necessarily focused on the products, but they're involved or the company names attached. I think we're going to see a lot of that in the future, at least that in my vision, like I said. Um,
You
but
have a great vision.
I have a big vision that people couldn't even wrap their brains around because it's so huge the way marketing, entertainment, and news content will merge. Someday I'll explain it to you on an after hours podcast. Anyway, I kind of had a similar issue though. Then I look at the Lexus and it sounds interesting, but I was searching all over online to try to find these films. I couldn't really find them. I could
Hmm.
find information about the directors and talking about them doing this. I couldn't find the actual films. I can't see what Lexus is actually doing with them. I mean, how are they promoting this? I don't know. I found, general information about they have this project, which is cool and an interesting idea. I don't see them really using it, and I don't understand why they're not, or why they're not pushing it.
Yeah, maybe someone told them that these aren't going to do well, so they just sort of stuffed them in the corner of the internet. over their website, their global website. I mean, it's definitely inspirational, and I appreciate, like I said, what they're trying to do. But I don't know if it's just really they haven't gone gung ho with them, and so they've got these series of short films, and they sort of teetered on the edge of whether or not they were really going to push them out there and get people to back them or whatever. But um, they definitely need to do something with them, otherwise it's all for naught.
Yeah, it's strange though because it's kind of out there and it is a very solid idea and I'm really interested in it. But then it's missing the whole marketing component. They're not using it in any way to draw people in. This is kind of just an obscure little news story without more to go along with it. So what's going on there, Lexus? Anyway, Patrick, your overall rating on this?
I'd give it a human for its, attempt at trying to do something different and to be out there, from the philanthropy aspect too. But it's not quite there, so I would just give it sort of an average rating. Human.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here again. It's human. It's almost subhuman because, like I said, the marketing is totally missing from it. But I like the idea behind it so much that it at least stays a human for me. But so we'll be interested to see if Lexus moves on this in any sort of way or uses it like they should. Moving on to our next story, and this is sort of a big one that's been in the news a lot within the past year and probably will be in the news a lot more in the next year. Google gets glasses. That's right, we're talking about Google Glass. Google is working to develop the future of technology. A pair of glasses that you put on and they have all the functions of your smartphone, web browsing, photos, you can get directions to places, and so much more, right in front of your eyes. You put it on your face and it's kind of like you see a computer, like we've seen and been promised in movies for probably about 20 years. Google's trying to actually make that a reality now. So what do you think about this big, highly innovative project from Google, Patrick?
I read about this technology actually a couple years ago, and I heard about this technological advancement, if you will, that was going to be happening over the next 10 years. This is the first in this line of technology, meaning, it's more of a physical device that you wear. And I love it. I really do. I've had some conversations with some people who I've just met, or friends or family or whoever. Google is all about, stepping out of the little search bar in the middle of the white screen that you type your searches in, and I love that about them. I think that they are pioneers. They're trying to do something very much like other technology companies, and I think that they this technology is really going to move us forward in terms of making every piece of information available everywhere you are. And as if you didn't think you had all of the technology or all of the human knowledge at your fingertips through your phone, imagine walking around each day and you could be looking at a bridge and see how long it is to the distance to the other side, or how tall it is, or the last person to commit suicide off the bridge. you know
Dark,
I don't know.
but yeah.
That's dark, but I'm just saying, I mean, everything will be accessible, and so it's very interesting. Now, on the flip side, and I've had this conversation, is that will people be open to this? Imagine how long it's going to take. A world where every action that you make is video recorded, or could potentially be video recorded, right? You've got a whole group of people in a room, and they've all got these things on, and they're interacting with each other. How does that change the way you act? Because, like if somebody brings a video camera into a room, you do things differently than you would without it. And eventually that change in your attitude subsides, like if you go into a room with a video camera, at first you're sort of a little on guard, and then after a while you almost forget it's there, and people do crazy things and you catch
The
crazy things.
basis for all reality TV, essentially.
Exactly. But how long will it take people really? Because you're talking about that on a global scale potentially, right? And you have video cameras and everybody's faces, and it's all recorded, right? It's all available to be socially shared that would be a crazy day. Will that either help it or will that hurt it? So there's all kinds of questions in there. From a technology standpoint, though, I do love the idea of some of the features of this thing, being able to record special moments, and it's always there. You have to wear these things. They're not totally flattering. I mean, if it was like a little tiny thing that was hardly noticeable, uh, but they are glasses, and people have to overcome that as well. But I don't know. I keep rambling. What do you think?
Well, I think almost anybody, no matter what's, whether this comes to something, whether it fails, whether it succeeds, you have to respect the innovation behind it. This is like true innovation. This is somebody going out there and really trying to create something that's never been done before, which you don't see happen a lot. It happens every once in a while, like the iPhone and the laptop. When these things came along, they were kind of like, game changers, the HD TV, but it doesn't happen a lot. I think even now you see people, companies being a lot more cautious with some of this stuff. They're just not going for it like they have in years past, but so that's why I really like to see it. It's just bold and ambitious, and it's something unlike anything else. There are a lot of issues to it. Even there's a lot of when you talk about it with people now, there's a lot of kind of resistance, like why do you need that? Why would you want that? But people said the same thing about the smartphone. People said the same thing about tablets, all things that people are buying in droves now. It's something that once it comes out, I can't even imagine. You try to imagine a world where everybody's walking around wearing glasses, looking at their own computer. And a lot of people will tell you the negative side of that, which there definitely is. But then there's also this extremely positive side, too, where you think of all these things you could just, have in an instant, being able to take a picture just like that, or being able to get directions no matter where you are. And there's a lot of, it is easy to focus on the negatives, and a lot of kind of like, technology is going to rule our lives. The government's going to be watching us all the time. It's all, we're all going to be just staring off into space, watching our Google glasses rather than communicating with each other. And there's always the potential for that, and that kind of comes with any technology. There is a little bit of isolation that comes along with it, but I always think you can't really stop it. It just kind of life is going to barrel along. These things they're going to be out there. They're going to be all around you. You can either embrace them and use them in the positive sort of way, or you're just going to kind of hate life because they're going to be everywhere. You know what I mean? You can't stop technology.
Yeah. You could use them for good or
Yes.
evil.
It's all how you choose to use it, how you work it into your life. But I appreciate when I see any company, and like I said, it gives me a new respect for Google, just to use something, to go try to push things that much farther forward, to look at things in a different way or do something nobody else is doing. And on the marketing end, Google's getting a big benefit from this. I mean, people are buzzing about this. They're talking about this all over the place. I think it makes them look good. It makes them look like an innovator, and that's definitely good for them moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, granted, they've got Android, but now they've got, this technology that is going to really make them a giant. I really believe that.
Yeah, that they will lead the pack on. And
Hmm.
I think more than anything, I think Google wants to just be a technology company.
Hmm.
Not necessarily focused on one thing, but all things. They're just like that kind of major innovator. More a competitor with Apple more than anything else.
Yeah, and they've got a great, the thing about Google is they've got a great foundation, I mean, they have the world's information at their fingertips. I mean, what more can you ask for? And to be able to then harness that power and push it into your technology, you can't ask for more. I mean, from a
Yeah,
technology standpoint.
that's a good thing to have behind you. And they also have, the culture that kind of fosters that sort of innovation too.
Hmm.
So anyway, we could talk about, I mean, the different facets of the Google Glass and Google in general, we could talk about all day, but we won't. We'll wrap it up here. So what's your final rating on this, Patrick? I'll ask you, even though I could probably guess what it is.
You want me to say subhuman, don't you?
It's it's horrible.
Just what if it was subhuman? It would be like a real letdown. I
I'd
give it
like
a
to hear you
superhuman.
explain that.
I give it a subhuman because I hate this. I give this a superhuman. It's not a surprise or anything. They've gone about it the right way. It's not accessible to the masses yet They're, in beta and prototyping right now, meaning, they got developers who are building apps for it and people who are, really testing it out in the field. That is the right way to bring something like this kind of technology to the world, and they're doing it the right way. Not many times do you see that happen. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and it is interesting the way they, it's not like shrouded in secrecy. They've been talking about this for a while. Now they're kind of showing it off. They're working with some other companies to create these sort of simulation videos of what it'll be like using it. So they're definitely kind of milking it for all it's worth too, which I think is good. I mean, it's superhuman across the board for me, even from a marketing perspective and from an innovation technology perspective. I mean, it's just there's nothing else you can say other than that. I mean, they're going for it. They're going for the gold with it, and you gotta love Google for that.
Absolutely.
So anyway, to wrap up this episode, just talking about this idea of companies sort of going in new directions or trying new things. I'm always a big fan of it. So, there are times when it doesn't necessarily make sense, and companies can blow a lot of money or go into realms that they just don't belong into necessarily. But I'm usually for people reaching out and trying to do something, especially when it's something original.
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth noting on these, that we were a little weaker on the Lexus for the reason that most of these, when you do these type of things, when you're trying something different or trying to branch out like that, you got to have a strategy behind it. You got to kind of know where you're trying to go. And you could see Oreo and Google definitely have that. And that's, the result of a lot of their success. Whereas Lexus, that component seems to be missing. They just didn't seem to think like, where we're going to do this, where do we want to get to with it, So anyway, that should about wrap us up on new directions, I think.
Yeah, so that's it for today's show. You can listen to current and past episodes of the podcast at speakinghuman.com. You can also subscribe to the Speaking Human podcast in the iTunes store. Email us with any feedback, questions, or inappropriate comments at ideas@thinkmonsters.com.
So we'll be back next time with more marketing chatter. Catch you then, humans.
Speaking Human.